During World War II, Japan's Unit 731 carried out terrible experiments on thousands of innocent people. These people, often called logs, were used as test subjects for brutal experiments at a secret military base in Pingfang. At least 3,000 men, women, and children were forced into these experiments, and many never survived. One of the most shocking experiments was led by a scientist named Yoshimura Hisato, who was studying frostbite. He froze people's limbs in ice-cold water to see how the body reacted to extreme cold. The victims had to stay in the freezing water until their skin became solid ice. Hisato also tested ways to warm up the frozen limbs. He tried hot water, open flames, and even left people's limbs untreated overnight to see how long it took for their bodies to thaw. The sounds of the frozen limbs cracking were so bad that witnesses described them as sounding like wood breaking. What makes this even worse is that many of the scientists behind these experiments were never punished. Some of them were even allowed to continue their work after the war, trading their findings in exchange for protection from being prosecuted. In 1872, the Mary Celeste, an American ship, was found abandoned in the Atlantic Ocean, about 400 miles from the Azores Islands in Portugal. The British ship Dei Gratia discovered the Mary Celeste, and when its crew boarded, they found the ship in good condition. The cargo, including barrels of alcohol and the crew's belongings, were still on board, but the 10 people, including Captain Benjamin Briggs, his wife Sarah, their 2-year-old daughter, and the crew, were missing. The ship's longboat was gone, but there were no signs of violence or struggle. The last log entry from Captain Briggs was dated November 25, 1872, 10 days before the ship was found. The Mary Celeste had been through bad weather during its trip from New York to Genoa, Italy. There was about 3 feet of water in the hold, but it wasn't enough to cause panic. However, one of the pumps was broken, and the tool used to measure the water levels was found on deck. This suggests the captain might have thought the ship was sinking and ordered the crew to leave. Many ideas have been suggested about what happened, such as mutiny, piracy, or an explosion from the alcohol cargo, but no one really knows. The fate of the crew remains a mystery. The Radium Girls were a group of young women in the early 1900s who worked in factories painting glow-in-the-dark watch dials and other items. They used radium-based paint, which was believed to be safe at the time. The workers were instructed to shape their brushes with their lips, unknowingly ingesting small amounts of radium daily. Over time, the women began to suffer from serious health problems such as jawbone decay, tumors, and bone fractures. Their teeth would fall out and their bones became brittle. It wasn't until years later that doctors discovered radium exposure was causing these issues. Despite clear evidence, the companies denied responsibility and many women struggled to get justice. A few women, including Grace Fryer, bravely took legal action against the companies, leading to a landmark case. Although many women had died by then, their efforts eventually led to changes in workplace safety laws and regulations on handling toxic substances. The tragic story of the Radium Girls raised awareness about the dangers of industrial chemicals and the need to protect workers' health. The Salem witch trials, which began in the spring of 1692, are one of the most tragic events in American history. It all started when a group of young girls in Salem Village, Massachusetts, said they were possessed by the devil and accused local women of witchcraft. This caused a wave of fear, and soon, many people in the village were accused. A special court was set up, and the first person, Bridget Bishop, was hanged in June 1692. Over the next few months, 18 more people were executed, and around 150 others were accused. At that time, many people believed in witches who made deals with the devil to gain powers. In Salem, life was already hard because of past wars, a smallpox outbreak, and fears of Native American attacks. On top of that, there was a lot of tension between Salem Village and the nearby Salem town. By September 1692, the public started to realize that something was wrong, and the Massachusetts General Court later took away the guilty verdicts and granted compensation to the families of the accused. Even so, the trials left a deep mark on the community, reminding us of the dangers of fear, false accusations, and the abuse of power. Project Sunshine was a secret U.S. government project in the 1950s to study the effects of radiation on human health. During this time, the U.S. was concerned about how nuclear testing might affect people, especially in terms of bones and tissue. The project is unsettling because it involved collecting body parts from deceased people without their family's knowledge or permission. Scientists used these body parts, including bones, to measure the levels of radioactive material, like strontium-90, that might have been absorbed from nuclear tests. The remains were taken from deceased people, including babies, without any consent from the families. The government said this research was for understanding the dangers of radiation, but many families didn't know their loved ones' remains were being used. For many years, Project Sunshine was kept secret, but in the 1990s, the public learned about it. This caused people to question the ethics of using people's remains without permission, especially in the name of national security and science. The lost colony of Roanoke is one of the biggest mysteries in American history. In 1587, a group of 115 English settlers, led by John White, arrived on Roanoke Island, now part of North Carolina. They planned to create a permanent settlement. After arriving, White sailed back to England for supplies, but due to delays, it took him 3 years to return. When he finally came back in 1590, he found the colony completely gone. There was no sign of the settlers, and the only clue left behind was the word Croatoan carved into a tree and CRO etched into a post. Some believed these marks referred to a nearby island called Croatoan Island, suggesting the settlers may have moved there, but no one knows for sure what happened to them. Many theories have been suggested. Some think the settlers were attacked by local Native American tribes, while others believe they might have joined the tribes or moved elsewhere. Despite years of research, no solid evidence has ever been found to explain what happened. The mystery of the lost colony has puzzled people for centuries and remains one of history's greatest unsolved cases. In February 1959, 9 hikers led by Igor Dyatlov set out on a skiing trip through the Ural Mountains in Soviet Russia. They never returned, and weeks later, rescuers found their abandoned tent, which had been cut open from the inside, as if they had fled in a panic. When the hikers' bodies were found, the situation became even stranger. Some had serious injuries like broken ribs and skull fractures, but there were no external wounds. One victim was missing their eyes, and another had their tongue removed. Some bodies also showed signs of radiation, which raised further questions. Several theories have been suggested over the years to explain what happened. Some believe an avalanche might have caused the hikers to flee, while others think military involvement or animal attacks could be to blame. Despite many investigations, no one knows for sure what caused the deaths of the Dyatlov group. On Christmas Eve in 1945, a fire broke out in the Soddler family home in Fayetteville, West Virginia. The fire completely destroyed the house, but when firefighters arrived, they found no trace of 5 of the 9 Soddler children, who were believed to have been inside. Despite searching through the wreckage, no bodies were found, and there was no evidence that the children had died in the fire. What makes the case even more puzzling is that the fire seemed to have started in the area of the house where the children were supposed to be sleeping. However, their parents, George and Jenny Soddler, believed the fire was deliberately set, and they questioned whether the children had actually perished in the flames. They suspected foul play, as there were strange occurrences on the night of the fire, like a phone call to the house earlier in the evening, and the fact that the house's phone line had been cut just before the fire. The Soddler family launched their own investigation, leading to many theories, including abduction and cover-ups. In 1952, they even received a mysterious photo showing a man and a woman with a child who looked like one of the missing kids. Despite years of searching, the fate of the Soddler children remains unknown, and the case remains a haunting mystery. MKUltra was a secret program run by the CIA in the 1950s and 60s, where they conducted mind control experiments on people without their consent. The goal was to explore how drugs, like LSD, could be used to control people's minds or make them reveal information during interrogations. The CIA tested these drugs on both military personnel and ordinary citizens, sometimes without telling them what was happening. They also experimented with other techniques like hypnosis and sensory deprivation. The experiments were carried out at secret locations, and the results were kept hidden for years. Many people who were part of these experiments suffered long-term effects, including mental health issues. The public didn't learn about MKUltra until the 1970s, when investigations brought the program to light. Afterward, it was revealed that the CIA had destroyed many records related to the experiments, so it is unclear how many people were affected. The dancing plague of 1518 happened in Strasbourg, France, when a woman named Frau Trophia started dancing uncontrollably in the streets. Soon, many others joined her, and by the end of the month, over 400 people were dancing non-stop. Some danced for days and even died from exhaustion or heart attacks. There are a few ideas about why this happened. One theory is that ergot poisoning caused it. Ergot is a mold that can grow on rye and is similar to LSD, making people hallucinate and act strangely. Another theory is mass hysteria, where the stress of living in tough times with things like famine and disease made people mentally break down and dance uncontrollably. Some people thought the dancers were being controlled by evil spirits or were cursed. At first, leaders tried religious actions like prayers and processions to stop the dancing. Eventually, they brought in musicians, hoping that playing music would help the dancers. But no one really knows for sure what caused the dancing plague. It remains a mystery, showing how strange and unexplained events can sometimes happen in history. If you're fascinated by these hidden horrors of history, make sure to hit that subscribe button for more such content. Let us know if you want a part 2 for this video. Until next time, keep questioning what you know.